Good morning everyone and welcome. My name's Yvonne Cowell and I'd love for you to join me today in making a very basic liquid soap that can be used in your home. I find that liquid soap is just the most versatile of soaps that you could possibly make. Liquid soap is fantastic for people that have extremely sensitive skin. You can use it also to make body washes. You can use it to make bubble bath. You can use it to make dog shampoo, horse shampoo, dishwashing liquid, shampoo. It goes on and on and on. Simply by changing the ingredients or base oils that you use and making a few extra tweaks here and there, you can really make a lot of different products, and I've got to say it's probably the most popular soap I have found. I make this a lot, I sell a lot of it, so I'd really like to teach you how to do it. As I said, this is a very basic soap, very, very easy to make. It is a little lesson in patience though, and it's just a process. So I hope you enjoy. I'm just using all natural ingredients today. I'm not doing anything fancy to this soap, and it will end up being an unscented liquid soap that you can use for a multitude of purposes. Liquid soap is a liquid soap, so when you're formulating your recipe, you don't have to pay much attention to whether you're using hard or soft oils, because we're really not concerned about whether this soap is going to be a hard soap. It's liquid, so suddenly all those inexpensive oils come into play, like sunflower, rice bran, almond, canola, avocado, grapeseed. The list goes on. You do, however, need to still consider whether this soap has any cleansing properties, whether it's a mild soap or a harsh soap, what the actual purpose of this soap is going to be, and you need to formulate your recipe accordingly and use the appropriate oils for the purpose. This soap today is just a general purpose body soap. It contains olive oil, rice bran oil, castor oil, and I've left one out, so please find the recipe below. My videos always have bloopers, so please just check the recipe below and you'll be able to make it yourself. The main difference with liquid soap making over cold process soap making is that it's a hot process soap, and I'm doing this today in an old slow cooker or a crock pot, you might call it, and the ingredients quite simply are your base oils, potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide makes a liquid soap, and distilled water. If you don't want to use distilled water, you could use boiled water, but I do stress that the water needs to be demineralized. That way you are making a sanitary product that does not contain any bacteria in it. So without any further ado, we'll make this for you. This behaves, the potash behaves a little bit differently when you add it to the water. Same safety precautions. I'm wearing gloves today. I'm going to wear a mask so that I don't breathe the fumes, and I'm wearing safety goggles. I like to pre-measure all of the ingredients before starting the project. In my crock pot here, I have pre-measured the oils that I am going to use, and the crock pot is on low, so the oils are warm. In this type of soap making. It's basically a hot process soap using potassium hydroxide. With this, you are not paying any real attention to the heat like you are with cold process soap making. You don't need to wait for your lye mixture to cool down. You just need to wait for it to be clear. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So did you hear that reaction? A little bit of a snap, crackle and a pop when I added the flakes to the water. And I generally just stir through that. It's important to stir to ensure that the flakes do dissolve into the water. And I normally stand at arm's length away so that there's no risk that I'm going to inhale these fumes. So give it a good stir, make sure it's all incorporated. And we're now waiting for that to become clear. At the moment it's quite cloudy. It's very, very hot in this container, and that's normal. This container is made out of polypropylene. On the bottom of the container it says PP5. That won't be affected by the lye mixture. The lye mixture obviously is a corrosive, so you need to make sure that the container you use will withstand the corrosive nature and the heat. So anything that's made out of polypropylene is fine. And a stainless steel jug or bowl would also be suitable for this. So you can see that it's finished its reaction. It's starting to clear up. So I'll just pop that aside for a moment while I put the crock pot in a position that you can see a little better. This is quite a quick and easy process. When you use your slow cooker, you're able to do mixing, you know, at intervals during this process, and while it's cooking you walk away and do something else. So I generally make liquid soap of a morning. That way you've got the whole day to keep your eye on it. Before you go to bed at night, you are diluting the soap with water. So in soap calc, if you are already a soap maker, when you're formulating your recipe, make sure you choose KOH and 90% at the top when you're selecting whether you're making a solid soap with sodium hydroxide or a liquid soap with potassium hydroxide. So just make sure you choose the right option for what you're making, and always select that 90%. And then you have the water content. I have it at 38%. I don't reduce the water because I feel that having that full water content in the soap makes it a little bit easier to work with. When you're formulating the recipe, the other thing that you may want to realize is that you're formulating to make a soap paste. So the recipe itself, that 38% water, is what you're going to use to mix your potash into, and it will ultimately make a soap paste. That paste can be stored for dilution at a later date, or you can continue to dilute it the same day that you make it. So that's just a tip that I'll give you, because it's really, really easy to get very, very confused when you're making a liquid soap. So our lye solution has gone clear now. I hope you can see that. And I'm going to add it to our oils. So, oops. I like to strain the lye as it's going into the oils, just to remove any impurities that may be present. So just very easily you use a stainless steel sieve that's got a really fine mesh. There was no impurities in that, but you never do know. It's worth doing. So what happens here is the oils are sitting on the bottom of the pot, the lye mixture's floating on the top. And as you know, nothing actually happens until you start to mix the oils. So at this point, you bring this to emulsion and you keep mixing until you've got trace. And with liquid soap, depending on your ingredients, that can actually take quite some time. And I urge you to have a good quality stick mixer. And if you are just using a normal household stick mixer, mix it for a few minutes and then give your mixer a break, because you'll burn it out, quite simply. I've destroyed many mixers making liquid soap. So just a warning, stir it for a little while, then give it a rest, and you can come back and continue on once it's cooled down. So I do just like to stir by hand for a moment, just to ensure that the lye has come into contact with the oil. There's no rush here. This is quite a slow process, very enjoyable, very rewarding. So just relax, take your time, nothing goes wrong normally. So using your stick mixer, just start to emulsify the product. So don't let this fool you. It can look like it has trace, but believe me, it has not. Keep going until you have what I would call a thick trace, okay? I'll just mention too that the oils were warm. The slow cooker's on a low setting, so I did that first. Then I weighed out my distilled water and my potassium hydroxide. Then I added the potassium to the water and I waited for that liquid to be clear. So I know you're all asking, what temperature, what temperature? It doesn't matter. The lye was actually quite hot, probably in excess of 90 degrees when I added it to the 90 degrees Celsius when I added it to the oils. And the oils are actually probably sitting on about 65, 70. So the heat actually helps to bring this to trace, and you can see it's wanting to separate. You probably thought, oh, we're there, but this is going to take quite some time to actually trace. So keep going. Don't worry about the temperature. Nothing's going to happen with that temperature. Just keep mixing. It will actually help you in this process. mixer that has quite a powerful motor, and I can vary the speed as well. It's fantastic. It's Russell Hobbs. I highly recommend getting yourself a stick mixer that has a variable speed control. The faster you can mix this, the faster it will trace. See that? It's all apple saucy, looks like it's separated. That's normal. Goes through quite a lot of different stages and you'll think, oh my goodness, it's not going to work, but it will. Just keep mixing. For the noise, I know it's very loud and I've got it on high, so please excuse the noise. Turn your volume down for a minute. Still not there, are we? We've still got real, you know, separated apple saucy kind of look it's referred to. So keep mixing. Stubborn, isn't it? So if you've got a standard mixer, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, it's really, really hot. What do I do? So just stop. Just put your mixer down, walk away, make yourself a cup of tea, hang the washing on the line, come back and then keep going. You must bring this to a nice thick trace. Otherwise it won't proceed to the next stage. And I'm continually stirring down the sides. You know, I just find this quite a relaxing process. I enjoy it a lot. It's science in the making, isn't it? we still have applesauce. So it's not coming together yet. It's being very stubborn today. So don't forget, I'm going to endeavour to take you on a little bit of a journey with hot process soap making. This is a very basic liquid soap using just completely natural, what I would call raw ingredients. The oils are what I refer to as raw. And I'll explain that a little bit to you. There are products that you may refer to as being natural. They're naturally derived, but they have undergone a process to turn them into something. So to explain that, to hurry this process along a little bit, you can add glycerin to the either directly into the pot here, or glycerin added into your lye water, and that glycerin can really quicken this part along. But to me, glycerin is a when you buy it, it's actually a what I would call a naturally derived ingredient. So, you know, to actually produce glycerin is, to me, not a raw ingredient. So raw ingredients are ones that are raw. So your oils in this recipe, olive oil, coconut oil, rice bran oil, a little bit of castor oil, they're what I would refer to as a raw natural ingredient. The water, that's a natural ingredient. The potassium hydroxide, that's a natural ingredient. So, you know, I'm always asked, can you make soap without potassium hydroxide or caustic soda? How can that be natural? Those ingredients are derivatives of salt. Yes, they've undergone a chemical process to be what they are, but unfortunately you cannot make natural soap any other way. And it's important to note that it's required to cause the reaction between the oils and an alkali. So we're using potassium hydroxide as an alkali in this instance. This soap, once we've made it, is going to be diluted, and it's then going to sequester for a week before first use. And it's important to note that when you're using this product, there's no lye left. There's no potassium hydroxide left in the product. It has been consumed by the process. So yes, it is a totally natural product by the time you are using it. So the questions about that, if you're not happy with my answer, please do your own research about potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide. As far as I'm aware, and I've been making soap for 30 odd years, there is nothing to take the place of those two ingredients for soap making. So I've just given my stick mixer a bit of a rest while we were talking there. If you require any clarification on anything that I say during this or any of my videos, please just comment below with your question, and I will endeavour to answer the question the best that I can, and as soon as I can. So what I was getting at before was, if you know, this is just the basic recipe using all raw ingredients. So the next video I will show you another way to make liquid soap this particular you know, bringing it to trace is quicker because of the use of glycerin. Just be very careful as it thickens up. You know, if you tilt your mixer the wrong way like I just did, you can have it flick up on you. So just be very, very, very careful. If you do happen to get some of this on you, just wash it off immediately. Don't use vinegar, that's an old wives' tale. Just water. Treat it as a chemical and flush with water. Okay, we're back again. It's been about 15-20 minutes, I suppose. We'll have a look what's happened in here. Okay, so we've come back now, and it's been, I'd say, a good half an hour. And you can see that it's starting to look very clear looking. You're still going to see the colour of the oils that's been used, and I have got rice bran in here, so it's a lovely golden colour. So give that a stir. You can see it's all fluffy and very gloopy, taffy like. So give it a good stir. So that's probably had about an hour, and you can see it's not a complete transparent look, but it's certainly well on its way. Very, very close. So it's had, you know, two lots of 20 so far. So about 40 minutes. I'm just going to let that cook a little bit more. You want to cook it until it has completely gelled. So I would like to see that a little bit more translucent than that. It's not quite there. So we'll cook just a little bit more. Lid on, and we'll give it another 20 minutes. See you soon. Okay, so we're back again. We've left it another 20 minutes. Now, that looks done to me. You can take your stirrer and give it a mix around. You want to see that nice, deep, glossy, you know, gel state look of the soap. And if you feel nervous, you're not quite sure, there's a very, very, very easy way to check if it's done. You can do one of two things or both. Take a little bit of your soap, put some on the tip of a spoon, and let that cool down. What you want to be able to do here is what's called a Zap Test, where you put a very small amount of that on the tip of your finger and touch it to your tongue. And if there's no zap, it's ready. So I have done that with this. I'm saying to take a little bit off on the tip of a spoon because that's very hot. So you want that to cool down a little bit before you put some on your tongue. And I know a lot of you are thinking, oh yuck, but honestly you don't even taste it. The whole idea is to see if it's going to zap. So that amount is plenty to see if it's going to actually zap on your tongue. So here goes, wish me luck. And there is no zap. So you're not actually putting it on your tongue. There's no actual taste at all. The whole idea of this is to ensure that it has reached gel. So if you're not too happy about putting some of this on your tongue, then you can also do a clarity test. And that just simply means you put some of the soap, so I'll just push that aside for a second. Just take a clear jar, doesn't have to be anything special, and put a good spoonful of that soap into that jar. So I'm putting a good dollop, it's probably more than necessary. So a good dollop of soap into that water and mix it. So you need to ensure that it has fully cooked, so completely gelled, which means the reaction is complete. It's ready to use. Okay, so I'm just dissolving that little bit of soap into the water. Now the whole idea of ensuring that the soap has completely saponified is to ensure that your end result will have good clarity. So with liquid soap, you want to be able to see straight through it. Now I don't mean that it's clear like water. It will be the colour of whatever the oils are that you've used. So I should end up with a lovely golden soap that is completely translucent. So no cloudiness whatsoever. So when you dissolve that into the water that I have in this jar, and I know you can't see very well, you want the water to be clear. And I know that there's lots of bubbles in this jar, so that's a really lovely sign of what this soap's going to be like. But we want to ensure that the soap is going to be translucent. So when you dissolve the soap into the water, you just check and see if it's clear. If it's not clear and it's really, really cloudy, that's a sign that this is not ready. So you know, you might like to cook it a little bit longer. But I can just tell you, I can tell by the look of this soap that it has gelled and it's now ready for dilution. If you don't want to dilute it straight away, you don't have to. You can store the soap like this until you're ready to dilute it, and you know, I like to keep it in the fridge just to prolong the life of it, but I have had soap paste in the fridge for over a year that I haven't diluted because I haven't needed to use any more of it. It was a specialty soap that I made for my daughter's scalp, which was she has a skin condition that causes big welts on her body and causes the a nasty rash that's quite itchy. So I made her a medicated liquid soap to use as a shampoo, which did work. But yeah, I'm just trying to point out that you can store it for as long as you like. So if by any chance at this point you're in doubt, all you need to do is turn this crock pot off, put the lid on, and leave it be until you're ready to dilute it. And during that time, the residual heat in the slow cooker will finish it off for you, so it removes any doubt whatsoever. So there's our liquid soap paste ready to dilute. Okay, now to dilute this soap paste, the next step is to actually know how much soap paste you have made, and that will be the weight of the oils and potash combined. That gives you a soap paste weight. Do not include the water in this calculation. So this particular recipe has 975 grams of oils and 195 grams of potassium hydroxide. So you add those two weights together to get a paste weight. And I add that weight in water as my first amount of dilution water. So that amount is 1170 grams of distilled water that I will use to dilute the soap. So all you do is weigh that amount into a jug and add it to your soap paste. If you continue on and do it now, the heat of the soap helps it to emulsify into the water. So I do like to try and do it now if you can. It's not really time consuming because you are basically adding it, giving it a stir around and leaving it alone. So we'll do that now. So while the paste is still hot, add your water. And then slowly start to agitate the paste in the water. So this is where the lesson in patience comes in. You don't want to splosh this all over the place. So just take your time mixing it. You can use a knife to cut it. You can just try and incorporate that into the water. It's not going to dissolve immediately. It's just time. It takes time for this to emulsify is the word into the water. In fact, it can take 24 hours for that to happen. So patience, that's all. The heat helps. I'm not adding any additional emulsifiers that would speed this process, because quite simply I don't want to. Some people add borax at this point to help the product to emulsify and thicken. I'm doing this a la natural, so I don't want any additions in this. Many people don't like the use of borax. It can be harsh on the skin, and it's certainly questionable where our environment is concerned. My findings is that it can alter the pH of soil, and if it can do that, it's an ingredient that I don't want to use. So there we are. Just clean off your tools as best you can to ensure that you don't waste any. And this will now begin the process of turning into a liquid soap. So ideally, this will just melt down and become a part of the water and will end up like a nice thick honey. And at that point, you can determine whether you would like to actually add more liquid to thin it a little bit more. But for the purpose of the size of my pot, that's ample in this pot. If I decide to add more water tomorrow, I can just go ahead and boil my kettle and add more boiling water. Each time you do a water addition, you need to heat the soap back up again, boil your kettle, and be adding boiling hot water. It just helps it to emulsify properly. It's just time. It will become like a lovely thick honey. At that point, that there are no lumps, and it's all a nice uniform soap, you can decant this into bottles, preserving jars, preserving bottles. I use 2-litre milk bottles, any kind of bottle or jar that you're happy to store the liquid soap in. It is fine, and it will keep for an indefinite amount of time until you're ready to use it. And at that point that you are ready to use it, that's when you can add a scent if you want a scent. And keep in mind that it is at the moment a totally natural product, very mild, beneficial for the skin. It's very nourishing, lathers beautifully, so you would not want to adulterate that with a fragrance. Please use only essential oils to scent your soap, and you'll reap the rewards of this wonderful, wonderful product. So I really hope you've enjoyed this journey with me today. This is the first lesson in liquid soap making. There are many, 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 many options available in terms of how to add herbs and when. You know, there's a water content that you can obviously infuse with beneficial herbs, and there's also an oil content there that you could have infused with different herbs and resins, etc. So there's a multitude of things that you can do to make a product that's unique and beautiful. So I hope you've enjoyed. Please come back and check for more videos, and I will slowly show you all the different types of hot process soap that can be made, and it's a journey like no other. So I hope you can join me again. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Hi everyone, you thought that was the end, didn't you? Well, I decided I could not leave you hanging wondering, so I thought I'd bring you back and show you the end result. You can see that that has now all dispersed into the water, and we're left with a beautiful natural liquid soap. So this colour is achieved from the oils that I have used, and notice I said before that you will ultimately get the colour of the oils that you have combined to start with, although it will be translucent. So at this point you just bottle your liquid soap and you let it sequester for 1 week before use. If you find that you have added too much water, the soap will actually be a little on the thin side. So if that happens and you've you know, diluted it a little too much and you would like to thicken the soap, you can add a brine solution to this to thicken it. So to make a brine solution, just boil your kettle and add, you know, start off with a tablespoon of normal fine grade table salt and dissolve that into about 50 ml of boiling hot water and stir that, and it will dissolve into the hot water. And at that point you can then add that to the soap, which will thicken it. And that's all there is to it. So if you're careful with the amount of water you add to start with, you may or may not need to even thicken it. So the soap content that we have here is around about the 35% soap content in water. And that's actually what I find to be a good dilution amount. It's a concentrated form of soap, so you can dilute it more. The risk you run when you do that is that it may end up being a little bit too liquid for the purpose. So just a few things to keep in mind. I think this is going to be a lovely soap to use, or I know it's going to be because I've made it many times. Here's one in a bottle. Now that will sequester now for a week before use, and during that time it will also regain its clarity, because to get this to dilute as quick as I have today, I put my stick mixer back into the pot and tried to chop up all the lumps as much as I possibly could to speed it up a little bit for you. So there you have it. Beautiful natural liquid soap. This one can be used for any general purpose need where a soap is required. You'll find the recipe in the comments below, and or in the description I should say. If you have any questions, please post those below and I'll answer those as soon as possible. So again, very basic liquid soap, no additives, all raw ingredients. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Bye.